Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Manson. I'd like to welcome you to the April 4th Coalition Show. This is the July 21st edition of the show, and our mission statement is we are for workers' rights and collective bargaining rights and are against tax breaks for the rich and corporations who ship our jobs overseas. We support all the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but as is our custom, we put the emphasis on Article 23. And because Susan is back on the panel, welcome back, Susan. Dick is going to do number 1.
All right, number 1, everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and protection against unemployment.
Everyone without any discrimination has the right to equal pay for equal work.
And I'm going to do number 3 and 4 because Michael doesn't have his mic on.
You got to put your mic up.
Everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration and for ensuring for himself or herself and his or her family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection. And number 4, everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for the protection of her or his interests. And as is our custom, we'd like to say thank you to the fabulous staff here at NBCTC, Matthew Tucker, Nicole A. Brown, and Joanne Hilbert for their invaluable assistance producing the show, and to the program director of WMNB for airing the audio portion of our shows on Friday at 6 p.m. So, Dick, where are we starting?
I just want to welcome Michael and Susan and yourself. Thank you for being here. And I again want to thank Matthew and everyone for putting up with all the emails that I send, and we finally get
All
to choose.
those videos?
Yeah,
Yes.
I finally culled down the number of videos down to 4. But the first video that we were going to show, because right now there's a lot of discussion. I heard on Democracy Now! There was a person on last week. He talked about he studied genocide, and he feels that right now what's going on in Gaza is a genocide. Mm-hmm. And there seems to be some controversy. The people who run the Holocaust museums and whatever aren't signing on to it. So, but people who study genocide feel that there is a genocide going on in Gaza. So I thought maybe we should review what genocide is.
Sounds
and
good
then
to
we
me.
can take a look at it. So here are the 10 stages of genocide.
When living conditions worsen and the economy fails, people try to find reasons for their troubles. This is when political extremists can become popular, as they blame certain groups of people and promise that by getting rid of them, society's problems will go away. This can lead to the deliberate elimination of those who are different because of their race, religion, sexuality, or disability, a phenomenon known as genocide. The 10 stages of genocide are a framework for understanding how crimes against humanity happen, so we can spot early warning signs and potentially prevent them. Stage 1 is classification. Extremists divide people into separate groups based on their different characteristics. This often happens to create an us versus them mentality or to find someone to blame for social problems. The second stage is symbolization. This involves assigning symbols or names to members of the other group. The goal here is to split the society and make it clear who belongs to who. Third is discrimination. The dominant group uses its power to deny others certain rights or privileges. Particular new laws may limit the freedom of the marginalized ones. Instances of bullying increase and the societal divide widens. Fourth is dehumanization. The targeted group is portrayed as less than human, often compared to animals or diseases. Stripping away the human qualities of a person makes it easier to justify violence against them. Fifth is organization. This stage can involve violent mobs that are tolerated by the ruling class, or even the creation of state-sponsored militias. In some instances, perpetrators now carefully start to plan the next steps of the genocide. Sixth is polarization. Extremists now demonize the targeted group and try to fully divide society by demanding that everyone must take a side. Moderators who want to reduce the tensions are often identified as enemies and silenced. Seventh is preparation. The criminals now plan for mass murder. They may identify victims by name or number, find where they live, and acquire weapons or build facilities to aid their efforts. Eighth is persecution. Violence escalates. The targeted group is systematically subjected to harassment, displacement, or other forms of abuse. Often all of that happens under the disguise of security measures. Ninth is extermination. The mass killing begins. The culprits view their victims as less than human, believing they are cleansing the world of an undesirable element, and in doing so justify the use of disproportionate violence. 10th is denial. Those responsible for the cruelty deny their crimes, destroy evidence, blame the victims, and attempt to rewrite history, justifying their actions as necessary for the greater good. This is why, in the aftermath of genocide, the criminals must be made accountable and the trauma must be addressed. Then the survivors may heal and society can attempt to reunite. Note that the 10 stages may not occur linearly. They can happen simultaneously. Dr. Gregory Stanton, who observed the phenomenon, suggested preventative measures to battle each stage, even though he believed that ultimately only an international intervention can stop such a disaster. In Germany, Cambodia, Rwanda, and other places, help from outside often arrived too late for too many, which is why Stanton also founded Genocide Watch, a non-profit to help prevent the next tragedy from unfolding. What do you think? Is knowledge enough to prevent genocidal events? And if not, what other measures can we take to avoid the next human catastrophe? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this helpful, check out our other videos and subscribe. If you want to support our work, join us on patreon.com/sprouts. For more information and additional content, visit sproutschools.com.
So you want to ask the question, is genocide happening in Gaza?
Well,
The answer is, if you take the totality of the history, yes. It's been a much slower process than people realize because, you know, it has spurts to it, periods of peace in there where it doesn't look like anything is going on, but that was could just as easily have been the preparation stages. Each one of those stoppages where it didn't look so bad, and then it moved on, up. So it's not something that was done like in a year or 2 or 4 or 10 like in Germany, but it's taking them decades to get there. And you had to get the right leader in there
well,
who was willing to go to the last step.
I think that the dehumanizing part is one of the biggest parts when you start thinking of people as not people.
yeah, that's why we have, that's why we do the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That was what was, I just bought these from the United Nations. The important thing about human beings, that every human being has a right to exist, and they should be protected. And it seems like the international community needs to stand up in defense, you know, when things are going on. To tell you the truth, as I watch that, it reminds me a lot of the us and them that is going on right in this country.
Oh, I know, I figure we're
You know.
about 2/3 of the way there, because
You know.
he's setting up the facilities now.
Right, for deportation,
Yes.
but we don't know, we're not, the due process isn't occurring, they're not letting Congress or people, the
Do
oversight
oversight.
of what's going on in those facilities. The human rights all over the world, from Gaza to Los Angeles, everywhere, we have to be, we have to stand up.
And people have to keep protesting everywhere. And I suspect, we have to get over the concept, especially if you're dealing with Gaza, that the Israelis can't possibly do genocide because they were victims of it, because, no, any
Culture.
sure
Yeah.
can do genocide. So, and I think that's why people have a hard time going with Gaza as
Right.
genocide, because it is not the group you think doing. You know, it's easy to say Arabs are doing it, but no, it's the Israelis who truly overall, they took a long
The
time.
Netanyahu regime.
Regime is
Yeah.
getting there.
We need to have more attention put on that, and we have to keep our eye on what's going on in this country. Did you have something, Susan?
The alligator, I call it Auschwitz.
Yes.
There was exactly one person that was able to get in there after 5 days of so-called sterilization, and they were only let him stand at the doorway. And he said there were 35 people in one cage with 2 toilets, and the bubbler thing that was coming out of the, I don't know if the back of the toilet or whatever, but that was their drinking water.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, dude.
That's horrible.
These
That
are
is
horrible
horrible.
conditions. We
Yeah.
condemn them. And
What's
Yeah.
going on in Florida, we condemn it. What's
Yeah.
going on in Ukraine, we condemn it
throughout the
everywhere.
United States, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want concentration camps. You can call them detention centers or whatever, but they're concentration camps. It's a very troubling situation. I heard the number of children that have died over the past 3 years in Gaza. They said like 26 children a day. It's like equal to like one classroom of children every day for 3 years.
Yes.
That was one report that I heard on Democracy Now! There was one giving an analysis of it.
And I honestly don't know how any society heals from those kinds of wounds.
No, the humanitarian aid has to get in there now. It's the people, the human beings should not pay for the misdeeds of what a government body was doing. And it's even more complicated when you find out that the head of the Netanyahu regime was okaying the funding of Hamas in Gaza because he was using it as a strategy to divide the leaders in Gaza for the PLO and Hamas. And so it's a very difficult thing, and in a half-hour show it's hard for us, but we just don't want to ignore it, and we want people to educate themselves the best they can. We're not trying to spew any hate on any individuals. We just want to protect the human rights of all children and all human beings in the
adults.
world.
And I suppose we're going to move on to what we think is
Yeah.
the next step of
The next things-
fascism in ours.
Yeah, we have a video about federal workers being laid off. There were 1,300 laid off last week just in one. We have a local news station in Washington, so let's listen to the federal workers being laid off.
Meantime, more than 1,300 State Department employees are leaving work for the last time. They are the latest casualties in the Trump administration's dramatic restructuring of the federal workforce. So just this week, the Supreme Court ruled the president can move forward with these kinds of mass layoffs. Our Matt Gregory has been at the State Department complex all day as people cleaned out their offices.
The mood in and around the State Department buildings, the Harry Truman building here and the complexes around, in a word, devastating. I talked to dozens of current and now former State Department employees, some who were laid off as we were speaking to them, and they were either too afraid to speak on camera or too devastated by what had happened. But as the minutes ticked down to 5 o'clock, we started to see more and more of their colleagues showing up to give them support, and some local lawmakers. Now, one employee gave us a copy of the reduction in force, or RIF, email. You can see it right here. And I'm told these started going out around 9:30 in the morning. Slowly, they made their way through the departments. Now, we walked from building to building, speaking with current and now former employees at the Truman Building and other annexes, and we found them hugging, shedding tears, some unable to process what happened today, some saying they expected it for weeks. And then we came out to the Truman Building around 4 o'clock, and that's when a small group of current employees, retired employees of the State Department, started to gather to show their respect and support for the laid off workers as they came through. There was clapping, hugging, crying, boxes being laid off and boxes being taken into vehicles. And as we watched it, we talked to one retiree and we wanted to know, why don't they want to tell their stories? Why don't they want to speak? And this is what he said.
And being a retiree, I can speak now, but they're professionals, and ultimately, we support the policies of the administration. I think this policy, however, of RIFs, of skilled diplomats, skilled foreign service officers, and civil servants is a travesty.
Now, we also had local government officials showing up here. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen came to speak to the crowd. We also saw Virginia Congressman Suhas Subramanian coming here. And I said, what message do you want to give to these folks? And what are you going to do to stop these cuts?
We're going to try. I mean, I can't do it myself, but putting on the pressure, making sure the stories are told about all the work that these folks do and how important it is and how it'll impact the American people. I think what we found is that when we put the pressure on, when we tell the stories, when we make the administration answer for things like this, they tend to back down.
No doubt Subramanian feels that these are cuts that we will see further down the line affecting America here and abroad. Outside the State Department, I'm Matt Gregory, WUSA 9.
And here at WUSA 9, we are committed to covering these changes and their impact. Every week, you can catch a new episode of our special report, Federal Workforce Fallout. It is streaming only on WUSA 9 Plus. We talk with experts, get advice from career counselors, and break down what all of this means for our area.
Well, they mentioned in there, they said the Supreme Court approved the president doing this, but I was listening to a podcast, a legal podcast this morning, and they sort of drew the analogy, which they said that the Supreme Court didn't rule that what they were doing was right. Mm-hmm. What they agreed was that what they're doing was right would be determined in the future, but while they're waiting to determine if it's right or not, they can go ahead and do whatever they're doing. They sort of drew the analogy as if you had a fish tank and you had fish in the fish tank, and the president decided he was going to make fish soup and run a blender through the aquarium.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court said, well, we're not going to make a decision on whether it's right or wrong to make the fish soup. We're going to do that at a later date, but we're going to let them proceed to make the fish soup right now. So how you can't go back once you do this.
Technically, just because by refusing to make a decision, you gave him the green light.
Yeah, right. You can see.
All you're trying to do is not get him upset.
An analogy they made was when President Biden wanted to give amnesty for student debt. Mm-hmm. They stopped that right away, and they said you can't make those changes, and we have to find out whether it's right or wrong later on. But right now, those changes can't be made. They put a stop to it when it was come to student debt.
Right. So
but when it's laying off federal workers, go right ahead. We have another video that was on PBS. Let's watch what they say on PBS. It's about a week old, but it talks about the federal workers.
The Supreme Court this week gave the Trump administration the green light to reorganize government agencies and begin the process of mass firings of federal workers. Tens of thousands of employees at nearly 20 federal agencies could be out of work, with layoffs expected at the State Department as soon as tomorrow morning. As Lisa Desjardins explains, that's happening even as court challenges will likely continue.
The reductions in force, known as RIFs, led by the DOJ team, had been on hold for months. A lower court judge ordered a pause because the Trump administration did not consult Congress first. But the majority of the Supreme Court ruled that the planning for mass firings can move forward. The justices wrote that the court is not ruling on the future firings, but only on the president's order that agencies start planning them. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented, writing sharply that the court is greenlighting the president's legally dubious actions in an emergency posture. To discuss where things stand and how federal workers are responding, I'm joined by Everett Kelly, the president of the American Federation of Government Employees, which represents more than 800,000 people. Everett, a lot of people want to know what this means for federal workers. What are you hearing from them?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all, Lisa. Federal employees are just at a disarray, if you will. They're so confused. 1 minute, they're being told you're going to get riffed. The next minute, it's put on hold, and then you're going to be riffed again. So people are confused, but at the same time, they are more determined now than ever to fight these unjust actions.
We're trying to get a hold of what's happening in this exact moment. Our Nick Schifrin and others are reporting that the State Department may announce RIFs, those reductions in force, tomorrow, even though we didn't expect them to start until next week. Are you hearing of firing starting now?
I have in the last few moments heard of such an action, but this is the thing. There should not be a rush to implement these extreme layoff plans that was created by Elon Musk before there's been, time to review and evaluate the consequences. Now, we saw what happened when the VA did just that. The secretary drastically scaled back Musk's plan. Secretary Rubio should engage in the same kind of careful analysis so that they can analyze every aspect of these actions.
This is a court victory for President Trump at this point, and the White House did send us a statement saying, in their view, this court decision clearly rebukes leftist judges trying to prevent the president from achieving government efficiency. You obviously represent federal workers, but I wonder how you see that argument about efficiency. Do you think there is any bloat in the federal government? Should there be any jobs cut?
I'm going to say this. I don't think that these actions is about efficiency. I clearly think that it's about retaliation for the members of AFGE and for the workforce standing up and calling out these unjust actions. Now, if the administration want to really talk about efficiency, want to talk about, should there be RIFs, talk to the people that do these jobs every single day. And let's look at that. Let's analyze and see if it's necessary, because the services that the American people deserve, they should get it. And it's the American workforce that's providing these services. I mean, just imagine, if you just go in and blankly start rifting people, who's going to be affected by that? It's the American people. It's the American people that are depending on the Veterans Administration to provide care for the veterans. It's going to be the people that provide food safety, air safety, air travel safety, all of these types of things that the American people are going to be affected by. So it should be careful analysis of these things before we just blankly start doing reductions in forces.
I know you mentioned this is confusing for federal workers. I think it's confusing for most Americans as well, all of the back and forth here. So I want to do a quick reset on a little bit of where we are with the actions in the past 5.5 months. We know that somewhere around 75,000 federal workers took that fork offer for those early retirements or deferred resignations. There's a lawsuit that estimates some 24,000 probationary, that's newer workers mostly, have been fired. But overall, we still don't really know how many federal workers have been riffed or fired, how many may have been reinstated after they were fired. But to getting to your point, through all of this, what services do you think have been affected? What has affected American lives so far, and what specifically do you think could be affected next?
Well, it's when you look at what's happening across this country. I mean, just when you look at Texas, for instance, and the rainstorms and the flooding there. You know, those FEMA employees are not readily available as they could be. You know, they were warned, if you lay off these employees, you're going to suffer loss. And in many instances, it could be people's lives that's at stake. And you're seeing that happen across the board. And it's going to be more and more of it. You know, if we are not careful and think about how we are addressing these issues and how we're attacking these issues, especially without good analysis.
I know Secretary Noem has said that she thinks localities on the ground are getting everything they need, but there is reporting that we will follow up on what happened with FEMA exactly in Texas. But I want to ask you as we wrap up, you mentioned that the Veterans Administration, for example, did announce that they've cut back on their plans for firings. As these workers may get firing notices, do you think they should take that as an absolute firing, or is it possible that courts will reverse this or the administration will? What happens next?
Well, to be honest with you, I think that AFGE has a very strong case against the legality of these actions. So I encourage people to hang in there. These people want to do their job. They just want the opportunity to do it.
Everett Kelly, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you.
One firing that I think is incredible is when they did that to the nuclear site, and then they had to go around and try to find these people to get them back.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's the same thing with the weather industry, food and drug. Think about it. How many food and drug people have been laid off?
How about with the airline, FCC or the...
FCC.
I'm sorry, the
Yes.
airports.
Air traffic controllers.
Yeah.
Let alone you can pick any one of them.
The EPA, the people that are studying to protect our environment, they're getting rid of them. It's horrible what's going on. Our federal government, I think, is doing their job. I mean, if you want to review,
I think the employees are doing their job. I think upper admin is taking a hatchet and making it impossible for them to do their jobs.
And the people are not going to want to work there. I mean, they're just making life miserable. That's all. They're creating chaos within our government, within our society. They run as conservatives, but I see them as radicals. See, the conservatives, I think, are more people that say that let's take our time, let's make changes that need to be done, but not irrationally just lopping,
people
using a hatchet or a chainsaw to our government.
Without thinking about what happens when you pull that thread out.
Yeah.
How far does it unravel?
Like looking at Texas.
Yeah, we only
the
have
floods.
about 25 seconds left.
I
just
didn't
want
know.
to make sure.
You're doing fine.
You're doing fine. I just wanted to let you know.
It was just the, Texas, the floods, and how the weather could have been a charge to the people, and there wouldn't have been that many deaths.
It's okay, we actually started late, so we got another minute.
All right, well, power to the people. We just want to maintain our collective bargaining rights in and out of the government.
Right. Power, everybody. See you next week.
Power to the people.
Mike?
Power to the people.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
All right. You can handle it.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Go ahead, Mike.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Power to the people.
There you go.
Way to go, Mike.
Way to go.
Strikes of the bosses we must pay for. From the cities and the farmlands to trenches full of mud. War's always been the bosses' way, sir. The union forever defending our rights. Down with the black leather workers unite. With our brothers and our sisters in many far off lands. There